So I've just had my first and hopefully last massive fall on an ice climbing route in Hemsedal. And that was a scary experience. So in this short video I'll walk you through what happened during the fall and how I could have avoided falling in the first place. And at the end of the video I'll also talk a bit about why it's very dangerous to fall on ice. We were climbing this short single pitch VI5 where we had to top out above a small overhang and bridge a hanging pillar. We had some solid ice screw placements in good ice, and the last ice screw placement was maybe a meter below me. I had built a fair amount of pump and I couldn't find a decent rest, so I decided to commit. And that was a poor decision. Because I couldn't withstand the pump, and eventually I fell.
Man.
I guess I was pretty lucky because nothing really happened to me. But if you go online, there's a lot of stories about people getting really hurt falling on ice. And we'll have some really good articles on his website regarding the consequences of falling on ice. But let's pause the video for a second and let's talk about what I could have done differently to avoid the fall in the first place. First of all, if I couldn't find a decent rest, then I should probably just have rested in the last ice screw or clipped one of my ice axes and then rested where I were. Secondly, I was so close to topping out at the tree to the left that I could probably just have hooked it with one of my ice axes or maybe grabbed it with my hands. But I must admit that that looked a bit sketchy in the given situation. And generally speaking, I would say that pulling in trees is probably not the best idea because the roots could be rotten and you cannot see that. And I also admit that I was a bit happy not climbing with leashes that day, as my ice axes would have ricocheted against me when the strings start pulling tight by the fall. And that could inflict serious injury. And falling on ice is something you should really try to avoid in the first place. There's a reason why people say that the first rule of ice climbing is never to fall on lead. And you can kind of say I broke that rule that day. Even though falls on ice are not common, they still happen, but the stakes are much higher. You have sharp pointy crampons on, you have 2 ice axes in your hands, and the ice might not hold if it's not solid enough. And you might even break off ice that could hit yourself or your belayer below. And besides that, most ice climbing happen in remote places, so there could be a long way to the local hospital or you have to be rescued out. I guess I was a bit eager finishing the route that day, and what I learned from this experience is that I really need to take resting seriously. And there's absolutely no shame in resting in an ice screw or your ice axe. So if you have been in a similar situation where you fell on ice, what did you learn? Leave a comment below.